Hello everyone, welcome back to Xbox Nation. October is officially here, and you know what that means. It's time to dive into some of the creepiest, most spine-tingling horror games to get you into that Halloween spirit. Today we're counting down the 15 best horror games on Xbox Game Pass in 2024. From psychological horror to zombie thrillers and intense survival experiences, this list has something for every type of horror fan. So turn off your lights, grab your favourite snacks, and let's jump into the best horror experiences that'll keep you up all night. Now, let's kick things off with The Evil Within 2. Honestly, I have to admit, this game has some of the most unsettling moments I've ever experienced in a horror game. You will play as a detective called Sebastian, who's already been through absolute hell in the first game. But now he's back to save his daughter, who he thought was dead. The world of STEM is twisted beyond belief. Imagine stepping into a reality where nothing makes sense, and every single corner hides something more terrifying than the last. I really love this semi-open world structure that lets you explore creepy environments at your own pace. The combination of grotesque monsters and psychological horror will definitely keep you on edge. If you're into intense narratives paired with nightmarish creatures, then The Evil Within 2 is a must-play this October. Next up is Still Wakes the Deep, and wow, let's talk about isolation horror at its finest. You're trapped on a North Sea oil rig after a disaster hits, and let me tell you, the feeling of being stuck out there surrounded by nothing but dark, stormy ocean, well, is a whole new level of claustrophobia. The sound design here is top notch, with creaking metal, distant howls of the wind, and the crashing of waves. It honestly made me feel genuinely uneasy, like I was about to fall into the depths of the ocean at any single moment. What I really love about this game though is how it plays with psychological tension more than direct confrontation. You'll find yourself constantly wondering what's really out there, so if you prefer atmospheric horror that's more about dread than jump scares, then Still Wakes the Deep is perfect for you. If you're a fan of slasher films like Friday the 13th, then The Quarry is going to be right up your alley. This game is basically an interactive horror movie, and what really makes it awesome is that every single choice you make changes the outcome. I remember playing through it for the first time, thinking I could keep everyone alive, and spoiler alert, I really didn't. You play as a group of camp counselors spending their last night at Hackett's Quarry, and as you might guess, things go from fun summer vibes to absolute horror incredibly quick. The acting here is stellar, with actors like David Arquette bringing that classic horror energy that we know and love. It's got that nostalgic slasher feel, but the way it lets you control the story adds layers of tension. The fact your choices can either save or doom characters makes every single decision feel important. If you love high-stakes horror games with a cinematic feel, The Quarry should be on your list. Now, I've played a lot of survival horror games during my time, but Resident Evil 2 holds a special place in my own heart. The original game was already a classic, but this remake takes it to a whole new level. You will play as either Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield, trying to survive the absolute chaos of a zombie outbreak in Raccoon City. What I love most is how the game constantly keeps you on the edge of your seat. You have limited ammo, terrifying enemies, and environments that feel like they could kill you at any moment. And then there's Mr. X, the relentless giant who hunts you down like horror movie villains. Seriously, the sounds of his footsteps still gives me anxiety to this day. It's the perfect blend of modern horror mechanics with classic survival horror vibes, making it a perfect fit for both newcomers and veterans. Now, if space horror is more your style, you would definitely have to check out Dead Space Remake. This game is just a sci-fi horror masterpiece. You will take control of Isaac Clarke, an engineer who finds himself trapped aboard the USG Ishimura. It's a mining ship that's been overrun by grotesque alien creatures called necromorphs. The horrific enemies and the incredible sound design all come together to create one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had in all of gaming. I still get chills when I think about the first time I heard the eerie whispers echoing through the ship's corridors. The game really cranks up the tension with every single encounter, and the zero gravity combat adds a whole new layer of terror. Whether you're a fan of the original or just want to experience it for the very first time, Dead Space Remake will keep you gripping your entire controller. If psychological horror is more your speed, you will need to play an underrated gem on Game Pass known as Amnesia: The Bunker. It's set during World War I, and this game nails the feeling of dread and helplessness. You're trapped in a dark, abandoned bunker with something hunting you down. What really makes this game truly terrifying though is how little it relies on combat. You'll actually instead be sneaking, hiding, and praying that whatever chases you doesn't find you. The sound design here is incredibly immersive. Every single creak, every distant noise just makes you stop in your tracks. and because the monster encounters are just so random, you can never settle into a complete routine. I loved how this game constantly kept me guessing and on the edge of my seat, making every single encounter feel like a life or death situation. If you want a horror experience that really gets under your skin, then Amnesia the Bunker is the way to go. Prey is another game that blends sci-fi with psychological horror, and let me tell you, it messes with your mind in the best way possible. Again, this is a very underrated game on Xbox Game Pass, so it's well worth trying if you haven't done so already. You're aboard the space station called Talos 1, and things have gone incredibly wrong. The Typhoon is an alien species, and they're now loose, and they have unsettling abilities to mimic objects. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a room, eyed up a coffee cup suspiciously, only to have it suddenly attack me in the next second. The game really constantly keeps you on the edge of your seat because you never know what's safe in the room with you. Plus, the way that Prey lets you solve problems however you want, whether through combat, hacking or stealth, makes it incredibly immersive. The narrative digs into themes of identity, survival and fear of the unknown, making it a haunting experience from start to finish. Now, for all of you who love multiplayer horror games, Dead by Daylight is just the king of it. This asymmetrical horror game pits one killer against 4 survivors, and the tension is through the roof. Honestly, I love playing both sides. As a survivor, you're constantly on edge, working with your teammates to avoid the killer by fixing generators and escaping, but as the killer, you're the one creating the terror. You'll have to stalk your victims, setting traps, and watching them scramble. The fact that you can play as famous horror villains like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger makes it just even better. The game is updated regularly with so much new content, so there's always something fresh to keep you coming back. It's the perfect game to play with friends for some Halloween thrills, and it's awesome to see some incredible events going on at this time of year. If you prefer more subtle horror, Inside is an absolute must play. From the makers behind Limbo, this game doesn't just rely on jump scares. Instead, it really builds an eerie atmosphere that slowly gets under your skin. You will play as a boy navigating a strange dystopian world, and everything about this game just feels unsettling. There's no dialogue and no instructions, you're actually left to figure out this haunting story on your own through the environment and what you experience. It really is a short game compared to others in the genre, but it packs an emotional and psychological punch. The puzzles really add a layer of depth here, but what really sticks with you is that haunting imagery and the oppressive atmosphere. Inside is a brilliant example of how horror doesn't always need to be loud scares to leave a lasting impact on its players. If you're into open world survival horror, State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition is an incredible experience, especially on Xbox Game Pass. This game drops you into a zombie apocalypse where survival isn't just about taking down zombies. It's actually about managing your community, scavenging for resources, and making some tough decisions. Honestly, I love the mix of action and strategy in this game. You're constantly just having to balance keeping your survivors happy and alive, whilst also dealing with the threat of hordes and terrifying special infected zombies. It's one of those games that feels completely different every time you play, thanks to its emergent gameplay and randomness of events. This one is even more fun with friends, as you can work together to build up your own base and survive the apocalypse. It really is perfect for fans of more strategic, long-term horror experiences, or just fans of zombie games in general. If you like over-the-top action mixed with horror, then again we have another zombie game. Zombie Army 4 Dead War will definitely scratch your itch. It's set during alternative World War II where zombies are a real threat, and this game combines thrilling gunplay with some good old zombie killing fun. The environments here are beautifully grotesque and the hordes of zombies just keep coming. What makes Zombie Army 4 stand out is its focus on cooperative gameplay and also implementing the X-ray kill cams from the Sniper Elite series. Of course, you and your squad of friends can take on waves of the undead using traps, explosives, and a variety of weapons. It's more action-packed than some other games on this list, but that makes it a great pickup for those times when you just want to blow off some steam while still getting that creepy zombie vibe. If you loved Resident Evil 2, then Resident Evil 3 is an absolute must-play. This time you're playing as Jill Valentine, and trust me when I say a fight for survival against Nemesis is nothing short of terrifying. Nemesis, of course, is relentless, and the game does an incredible job of making you feel constantly hunted. The action here is more fast-paced compared to Resident Evil 2, but it still captures the intense survival horror feeling with limited resources, terrifying enemies, and claustrophobic environments. The game just looks gorgeous to this day, and the updated mechanics make it feel fresh while honouring the classic. It's a shorter experience, but every single moment is packed with tension and adrenaline. It really is a thrilling experience from start to finish, and you can play it right now with your Game Pass subscription. For a more laid-back, humorous take on zombie apocalypses, Dead Island 2 is a ton of fun. It's set in a sun-soaked post-apocalyptic California, and you'll be slashing, smashing, and blasting your way through hordes of enemies in this over-the-top action horror game. What I love most about Dead Island 2 though is the sheer variety of ways that you can take down zombies. Whether it's with an electrified baseball bat or with a shotgun, the game just embraces that ridiculous nature of its world and encourages you to have fun with it. It's got a co-op mode, so you can also team up with friends and cause some zombie chaos fun together. It's not as terrifying as some other games on this list as well, but sometimes you just want to have fun in an apocalypse and slay mounds of zombies. To be honest, if you're looking at this list and want something truly unique and unsettling, then Inscription is one of the most bizarre and brilliant horror games that I've played in recent years. It actually comes to Xbox Game Pass in the next few days, so it's not available right now, but it's well worth playing when it drops into the service. It starts off as a deck building card game, but the deeper you go in this one, the darker and more twisted that it actually becomes. Without giving too much away, let's just say this game loves to break the fourth wall and really mess with your mind. It's a slow burn psychological horror experience that keeps you surprised the entire way and more you play. What starts as a simple card game soon becomes something much more sinister. The combination of unsettling atmosphere, creepy story, and mind-bending twists makes Inscription stand out in the horror genre. It's a game that stays with you long after you finished it, and is a reason why so many players recommend it to this day. Last but definitely not least, we have the Callisto Protocol. This game comes from the creators of Dead Space, so you already know that it's going to be terrifying. Set in a prison colony on one of Jupiter's moons, the sci-fi horror game is filled with tons of grotesque monsters, claustrophobic environments, and some insane brutal combat. It's got that same unsettling atmosphere as Dead Space, but with modern mechanics that make it feel incredibly fresh. The game is also gorgeous in the graphics department in a horrifying way, with incredible detail being put both into the environments and the enemies you face. The tension here builds slowly, and when that horror hits, it hits incredibly hard. If you love Dead Space and want something similar but also new at the same time, then the Callisto Protocol will give you plenty of sleepless nights. Those were 15 of the best horror games on Xbox Game Pass in 2024. Whether you're looking for atmospheric dread, intense survival horror, or just some fun zombie killing action, there really is something for everyone. Let me know in the comments below which game you're going to dive into this Halloween. And whilst there, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Xbox content every single day. Whilst here, why don't you check out our most recent video covering the survival games that are coming to Xbox and Xbox Game Pass in 2025.